Pain is not a curse, it is life's most honest teacher. Every wound, every heartbreak, every moment of suffering carries a hidden message. When we learn to meet pain without resistance, to understand its language, it transforms from a burden into a source of immense power. Strength is not born in comfort, it is forged in the fire of adversity. Pain is not a punishment, nor is it a mere inconvenience in life. It exists as a teacher, revealing truths that comfort alone could never show. Every wound, every heartbreak, every moment of suffering carries a hidden message, and those who learn to listen begin to understand the profound lessons within. Pain exposes our weaknesses, our fears and our attachments, but in doing so, it also shows us where strength can be born. It demands our attention, asking us to face what we often try to ignore, and in that confrontation lies the potential for transformation. To resist pain is to prolong it. Struggling against what is natural only creates tension and deeper suffering. When we allow ourselves to fully experience the discomfort, to observe it without judgment, it begins to lose its sting. Acceptance does not mean surrendering to defeat, it means understanding the reality of the moment and allowing it to work on us. In that space of surrender, pain changes its nature. It becomes a teacher that guides us to clarity, revealing insights that can never be learned in ease or comfort. Pain has a power of focus unlike anything else. When we channel our attention toward understanding the cause, the feeling, and the lesson of our suffering, it transforms into an energy that strengthens the mind and sharpens the spirit. Every challenge faced with awareness becomes a stepping stone, building resilience and courage that cannot be taken away. The more we face our inner struggles, the more we uncover the untapped strength within, and the more capable we become of navigating life with purpose and composure. Emotional resilience grows when we allow ourselves to feel fully, to confront the depths of despair and to remain present with our discomfort. Each experience, each pain that is met with conscious awareness fortifies the soul. It teaches patience, endurance and discernment. When we detach from the need for outcomes or for life to be different than it is, we discover a strength that is steady and unwavering. Pain stops being a threat and starts becoming a guide, shaping our character, sharpening our perception and opening doors to self-mastery. The ultimate gift of pain lies in the empowerment it brings. When we understand it, when we integrate it into our being, it no longer controls us, but serves as a source of wisdom and insight. The lessons drawn from suffering are treasures that enrich our journey and equip us to help others. What once felt unbearable becomes the foundation of resilience, and the experiences that once broke us now build an unshakable power within. Pain, fully embraced, becomes the instrument through which strength, clarity and growth emerge. Fighting pain only gives it more power, making it grow larger in our minds and hearts. Every attempt to push it away or deny its presence multiplies the suffering and creates inner turmoil. Resistance builds tension, confusion and frustration, trapping us in a cycle where pain feels endless and unmanageable. The more we struggle against what is, the more our energy is consumed by fear, anger and helplessness, and the less room there is for clarity and insight to emerge. Embracing pain does not mean surrendering to it blindly, it means facing it honestly, without judgment or avoidance. When we allow ourselves to feel fully, to observe the sensation and the emotions that accompany it, the energy of suffering begins to shift. It no longer acts as an enemy, but becomes a mirror reflecting our hidden fears, our attachments, and the parts of ourselves that demand attention. Through this awareness, pain starts to lose its intensity, transforming into a source of insight rather than a burden. The process of acceptance requires courage and focus. It asks us to remain present with discomfort, to witness it without being overwhelmed, and to avoid reacting impulsively. In this space of conscious attention, we discover the lessons that pain carries. Each moment of suffering reveals areas of growth, resilience, and strength that were previously dormant. What once seemed intolerable becomes a teacher, guiding us toward understanding ourselves more deeply and recognizing the patterns that have held us back. As we practice acceptance, the energy of pain begins to be harnessed. Instead of draining us, it fuels transformation. Awareness and presence turn suffering into clarity, providing insight into how we think, feel, and respond. We start to see the situation as it truly is, without exaggeration or distortion, and we gain the power to act from a place of balance rather than reaction. Acceptance shifts pain from being a force that controls us to being a tool that empowers us. When pain is fully accepted, it becomes a pathway to strength and growth. The suffering we face no longer dominates our minds or defines our lives. Instead, it refines our perception, deepens our emotional resilience, and opens the door to wisdom and self-mastery. Each challenge, when embraced rather than resisted, transforms into an opportunity to evolve, turning moments of difficulty into the foundation of unshakable inner strength. Observing the mind and body's reactions to pain reveals layers of ourselves that are usually hidden beneath the surface. Every flinch, every tense muscle, every racing thought carries a message about our fears, our resistance, and the limits we have unconsciously accepted. Pain exposes these inner barriers, showing where we cling, where we avoid, and where we allow ourselves to be controlled by old patterns. By paying attention to these reactions, we begin to see the subtle ways in which suffering shapes our behavior and influences our decisions. Awareness of these responses allows us to step back and witness them without judgment. When we notice tension in the body or agitation in the mind, it becomes possible to separate ourselves from the automatic reactions. This detachment is not denial but clarity. We learn that our responses are not the pain itself, but a lens through which we experience it. Recognizing this distinction creates the space necessary for transformation, allowing us to confront discomfort with presence rather than resistance. The process of inner awareness strengthens the connection between mind and body. We begin to understand that pain is not only a physical or emotional phenomenon, but a signal that something deeper requires attention. Every reaction, every surge of discomfort carries information that can guide us towards self-understanding and growth. By observing these signals consciously, we develop the capacity to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, turning moments of suffering into opportunities for insight. As awareness deepens, hidden fears and limitations start to surface more clearly. We see the insecurities we have carried silently, the patterns of avoidance that have restricted our potential, and the beliefs that have limited our courage. Observing these reactions allows us to question them, to challenge what is unnecessary, and to release what no longer serves our growth. Pain becomes a lens through which we discover the truth about our inner strength and resilience. Through persistent observation, the mind learns to remain steady even in discomfort, and the body becomes less reactive to tension. This inner awareness transforms pain from a destabilizing force into a teacher and a guide. By consistently watching our reactions, we cultivate clarity, discernment and control, ultimately converting the energy of suffering into a source of strength that empowers every aspect of our life. Pain is inevitable, but the way we respond to it determines whether it becomes a source of strength or a chain that binds us. Every moment of suffering presents a choice: we can let it overwhelm us, or we can face it with awareness and determination. The power to decide lies within each individual, and this decision shapes not only the present moment, but also the course of our growth. Choosing to confront pain head-on transforms it from a passive force into an active teacher that reveals our resilience. Reacting impulsively to pain often deepens suffering. When we give in to fear, anger, or despair, we reinforce the very limitations that hold us back. The mind becomes clouded and the body tenses, creating a cycle that feeds itself endlessly. By contrast, a conscious response allows us to observe the situation without being consumed by it. This pause between stimulus and reaction is where strength emerges, where pain can be redirected into understanding, learning, and eventual empowerment. The act of choosing also requires courage and honesty. It demands that we acknowledge the discomfort fully, recognize the lessons it carries, and refuse to be dictated by automatic emotional reactions. Each decision to face pain consciously builds confidence in our ability to handle adversity. The more consistently we exercise this choice, the more habitual it becomes, and the stronger our mind and spirit grow in the process. Choosing how to respond to pain shifts the relationship between suffering and personal growth. Instead of being passive victims of circumstances, we become active participants in our evolution. Pain is no longer a random force that disrupts our lives. It becomes a deliberate teacher whose lessons we can integrate and apply. Each moment of suffering met with conscious choice strengthens our ability to navigate challenges with clarity and resilience. Through the repeated practice of mindful choice, we transform the very nature of pain. What once threatened to break us now builds us from within. Each decision to face discomfort with awareness adds layers of resilience, courage, and inner power. The energy of suffering becomes a fuel for transformation, turning adversity into a foundation of unshakable strength and a guide for living with intention. Redirecting attention from suffering to understanding changes the very nature of pain. When we stop allowing our minds to dwell on hurt, resentment, or fear, we create a space where clarity can emerge. Every moment spent ruminating on the intensity of pain strengthens its grip, but every moment spent observing, analyzing, and learning from it transforms that energy into something constructive. Pain, once seen as an obstacle, begins to reveal opportunities for growth, insight, and self-mastery. Focus is the bridge between suffering and strength. By consciously directing awareness toward what can be learned, we stop being passive victims of circumstance. Each sensation of discomfort, each emotional disturbance becomes a source of knowledge. The mind, when trained to shift from complaint to curiosity, uncovers lessons hidden within the layers of pain. This deliberate attention turns raw suffering into a tool for transformation, allowing us to act with wisdom rather than be ruled by reaction. When we focus on learning from pain, it stops fragmenting our energy. Instead of being scattered in fear, frustration, or despair, the mind channels its force toward understanding and adaptation. This concentration creates a sense of control and clarity that was impossible when pain was allowed to dominate unconsciously. The shift from passive suffering to active engagement with the experience empowers the individual and transforms the very relationship with adversity. The process of transmutation requires persistence and discipline. Attention must be continually returned to the present reality of the situation, to the lessons embedded in it, rather than to imagined grievances or what-ifs. Each time awareness is redirected, the mind grows stronger, more resilient, and more capable of discerning the essential from the trivial. Pain, when met with focused awareness, gradually loses its destructive power and becomes a wellspring of insight. Through this practice, suffering becomes an ally rather than an enemy. The energy once spent resisting discomfort is now invested in understanding, adaptation and growth. Life's challenges no longer destabilize the mind but instead strengthen it. By continually redirecting focus from mere survival to conscious learning, every painful experience can be transformed into actionable insight, turning adversity into the foundation of inner power and wisdom. Every challenge that life places before us leaves an imprint on our emotional core. Each struggle, each moment of discomfort tests the boundaries of our patience, courage and endurance. When we confront difficulties instead of avoiding them, our capacity to manage emotions grows stronger. Emotional resilience is not built in comfort or ease, it is forged in the crucible of trials and adversity, where the mind and heart are stretched beyond their usual limits. Facing challenges repeatedly creates a foundation of courage that allows us to navigate future storms with steadiness. The fear that once overwhelmed us diminishes with each experience of endurance. Pain and hardship become familiar teachers, showing us that we are capable of surviving, adapting, and even thriving under pressure. The lessons of resilience accumulate silently, preparing us for circumstances that might have once seemed unbearable. The strength gained from emotional resilience also deepens self-awareness. As we encounter challenges, we begin to recognize the triggers of fear, anger and sadness. Understanding these reactions allows us to respond with intention rather than react impulsively. With each emotional test, we refine our ability to observe our internal state without being controlled by it, cultivating a sense of mastery over our own responses. Detachment from outcome requires a shift in perception, a conscious decision to release the need for life to conform to our expectations. When we cling to a particular result, every deviation creates tension, frustration and suffering. The mind becomes restless, constantly projecting into the future, imagining scenarios that may never occur. By loosening the grip on what we think should happen, we allow ourselves to fully inhabit the present moment, experiencing reality as it is rather than as we wish it to be. Releasing attachment to outcomes does not mean apathy or inaction, it is an active engagement with life while maintaining inner freedom. We continue to act, strive and make choices, but without allowing success or failure to dictate our inner state. This detachment allows clarity in decision-making as our actions are guided by understanding rather than fear or desire. It creates a space where effort is natural, not forced, and where results are observed without judgment. When we stop measuring ourselves against outcomes, we free ourselves from the constant pressure of expectation. Life becomes less of a battle against circumstances and more of a dance with reality. Challenges no longer feel like personal attacks and setbacks are no longer sources of despair. Every situation, whether favorable or difficult, becomes a teacher, and our attention shifts from what we want to what is truly present, allowing deeper insight and awareness to emerge. Detachment strengthens resilience by preventing external circumstances from controlling our inner state. When outcomes do not determine our sense of worth or happiness, we maintain balance in the face of uncertainty. The mind, no longer caught in the trap of craving or aversion, can respond to life with creativity, patience and adaptability. This freedom allows us to meet obstacles with calmness and composure rather than anxiety and resistance. Through consistent practice, detachment from outcome becomes a foundation for true strength. We learn to invest our energy in effort, presence and awareness rather than in clinging to results. Life is no longer a source of suffering dictated by unmet expectations, but a field of experience where each moment offers opportunity for growth, learning and mastery. Inner power emerges naturally when we act fully in the present without being enslaved by what should or should not happen. Awareness of pain allows the mind to stop resisting and start observing. When we pay attention to the sensations, emotions and thoughts that arise during suffering, we begin to understand the layers beneath it. Each moment of discomfort carries information about our inner world, our fears, attachments and unhealed wounds. By consciously noticing these signals, we create a space where healing can begin. Because the first step toward transformation is recognition. Observing pain without judgment shifts the energy from chaos to clarity. Instead of reacting impulsively or suppressing discomfort, we witness it as it is, allowing insight to emerge naturally. This awareness illuminates the root causes of suffering, revealing patterns that have kept us trapped or unaware. By bringing light to what is usually hidden, the mind gains power over the pain and the body releases tension that may have been held unconsciously. Awareness strengthens the connection between mind, body and emotion. Each reaction to pain becomes a point of learning, teaching us how we respond under pressure and what areas require attention. When we consistently observe without attachment, we develop the capacity to integrate painful experiences into our life story rather than letting them define us. Pain begins to transform from a disruptive force into a guide for growth, showing us what needs care, reflection and change. Through mindful attention, healing accelerates naturally. The act of watching pain without resistance reduces suffering and creates an environment for transformation. Emotional wounds begin to soften, mental tension decreases and clarity emerges. Awareness allows us to extract meaning from the discomfort, turning each experience into a lesson that strengthens resilience, deepens understanding and nurtures the soul. When awareness becomes habitual, pain no longer dominates the mind or body. Instead, it becomes a teacher whose lessons we can observe, learn from and apply. The energy that once fueled suffering is now directed toward insight, growth and self-mastery. Each moment of conscious attention integrates the experience into personal evolution, making every painful event an opportunity to cultivate strength, clarity and inner balance. Experiencing pain deeply allows us to uncover truths that comfort can never reveal. When we face challenges, setbacks and suffering head-on, we are forced to confront the limitations of our mind and the hidden strengths of our spirit. Each painful encounter acts as a mirror, reflecting our fears, attachments and unresolved patterns, making it impossible to ignore what truly lies within. Through this confrontation, we gain a clarity and understanding that cannot be accessed through ease or pleasure. Pain teaches lessons that cannot be taught by books or advice. The intensity of suffering pushes us beyond superficial thinking and compels us to engage with life at a fundamental level. We begin to recognize our inner resources, our resilience and our capacity to endure and adapt. These lessons are etched into our being through lived experience, forming a foundation of wisdom that is practical, immediate and undeniable. Every encounter with difficulty strengthens our decision-making and judgment. When we have experienced hardship, we develop a sense of discernment that allows us to respond to future challenges with composure and insight. Pain trains the mind to see beyond appearances and to understand the deeper dynamics of life. This form of empowerment arises not from avoidance, but from direct engagement and reflection. Through repeated experiences, the fear of suffering diminishes. What once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable because we have learned from living through adversity. Each challenge survived reinforces confidence in our ability to navigate life, providing a quiet but unshakable sense of inner strength. Pain becomes not a source of weakness, but a forge in which character and resilience are hardened. Empowerment through experience transforms suffering into a tool for growth and mastery. The knowledge gained through hardship cannot be taken away and becomes a guide for navigating life with awareness, courage, and wisdom. Each painful moment integrated into understanding adds depth to our character, allowing us to face the future with steadiness and the confidence that whatever comes, we are capable of transforming it into strength. The lessons drawn from pain carry a power that extends far beyond the individual. When we allow ourselves to learn from suffering, we gain insights not only into our own nature, but also into the human experience. These insights become a bridge that connects us with others, offering guidance, empathy, and understanding. Sharing what we have learned transforms personal hardship into a force that can uplift and support those around us, creating a ripple effect of awareness and resilience. Pain is not a curse, it is life's most honest teacher. Every wound, every heartbreak, every moment of suffering carries a hidden message. When we learn to meet pain without resistance, to understand its language, it transforms from a burden into a source of immense power. Strength is not born in comfort, it is forged in the fire of adversity.